Welcome back. Here again is Terence McKenna in Montreal with two very special guests.
Brian, here with me in Montreal tonight are former Montreal Canadiens star Dickie Moore, who played with Rocket Richard, and Red Storey, who refereed Montreal games for many years. Red, I guess I'll start with you. What were your first memories of Rocket Richard?
Well, I watched him play for a couple of years before I actually met him. But he had a tough start, breaking his leg the first year, and what was his arm the second year. And it was rumored, I've never been able to prove it, that Canadians wanted to trade him to New York Rangers, even Steven for Phil Watson. And to show you how brainy the management was in New York, they turned it down. And fortunately, he got over his injuries, and you knew as soon as he was whole that somewhere in that heart was going to be a star, because he was so determined. He was the most determined athlete I have ever seen of any sport.
Dickie, I guess the Rocket was already a star when you joined the Canadiens. What advice were you given when you first stepped on the ice with him? I guess it would be a practice. What would the coach tell you?
The coach, it was Dick Irvin at the time when I broke in with the Canadiens. Actually, the first part was a training camp, and my first experience with the Rocket is when the coach says, "Moore, I hear you're tough." He says, "Why don't you get this guy?" And he points to Rocket. So, anyway, I had to try and make the team, so I took some runs at him, but then on the next face-off, he said, "Dickie, don't listen to him."
He knew the game.
He knew the game. He said, don't, because Rocket had watched me play junior, and he kind of gave me some tips when I used to meet him outside the rinks, and because we had Jeffrey on with National, Belleville in Quebec, so there was a lot of rivalry between the three teams, and Rocket was following our team, which is Junior Canadian, so he always had some tips on how to shoot on net. He said, "Don't look, just shoot."
Now, Red, as a referee, was he a lot to handle? Was he hard to handle?
Easy to handle, because all he wanted to do was score goals. He wanted the puck, and from the blue line in, nothing, he wouldn't be denied. So the only time Rocket blew, and as you know, Dickie, he took an awful lot of abuse illegally in games. We couldn't call everything or there'd be no game. And every now and again, Rocket would blow. And when Rocket blew, it was big time. And he was a powerful, powerful man. So you had problems settling him down. But me personally, I never had a problem with him in my life.
Well, Red, you also know that they assigned a check to him all the time, not just in the playoffs, during the whole season. This guy had to elude one man skating beside him through the whole game.
Yeah.
Therefore, he had to beat 2-3 people to get away from them. And this, as Red said, the strength that he had, I don't think there's another hockey player that had as much strength from the blue line in.
Red, I guess when the Rocket did get in a fight in that day and age, sticks would be flying in all directions.
Well, I think, Dick, you were in the game in Toronto where he went berserk. I didn't find out for 30 years or so what the reason was, but him and Bailey, a Toronto player, collided on the blue line, and they went down in a heap, and they were going like a couple of kids wrestling and that, and all of a sudden the Rocket broke free, and he went absolutely berserk, and I didn't know why at the time, but I found out later. And before, he had a stick, and he was going to use it, and we took the stick away from him. The next thing we see, he's got another stick, and we take that away from him. And the next thing, he's got another stick. And we finally took 5 sticks away from him.
So the other Canadians are giving him sticks? Where is he getting the sticks?
The coach, Dick Irwin Sr., he was handing him sticks. He'd go over and get another stick and come back in the fight again. And about 30 years later, at least, I said to Rocket, "You remember that night in Toronto?" I said, "where you blew your top?" I said, "What was that all about?" I said, "That was a mess." And he says, "You don't know?" I said, "No." He says, "Bailey was trying to claw my eyes out while we were laying on the ice." And he blew. He blew. It was as simple as that.
Dickie, I guess most people watching tonight would not have been watching the National Hockey League on television back in the 50s. Explain to them how the game was different then. How was the league different?
Well, the difference in the game is the play of the game. Our game was more wide open. We played our positions more. We didn't crowd into the corner and shoot in and chase the puck. We had the best skating team in the league.
You had the best team in the world.
You know, that way too. But Red, we had the best skating.
Oh,
team.
there's no doubt about it.
Detroit, when you had a match between Detroit and Montreal, you had a heck of a hockey game because they were a good skating team too.
It was great to referee too. You just went up and down and watched the moves were fantastic.
You know, and then you had two of the best players playing against each other, and who was the best, Rocket or Howe? Mm-hmm. But Rocket would always score that exciting goal in comparison.
And what about fraternizing between the players on different teams in those days? Was it like today?
Fraternizing? Are you kidding?
You'd have given them a gun, they'd have shot each other.
If they were on the same, running the same train with us in different cars, that was too bad. We'd never go in the dining room when the other team was there. Never.
What would happen?
What happened? We just wouldn't go. We didn't want to see the opposition with us or near us.
Now, let me tell you about on Saturday night, we'd all be out of Westmount Station to get out of town. And the referees, too, were going to the next city. And first of all, the visiting team would be in the club car first to eat, dining car to eat. And then the Canadians would go in to eat. And the referees can't go in when they're there. So the referees would go in last to eat, and the guy'd say, "We're closing now." So we would starve till the next city. That's the truth.
At midnight. You know, Dickie, you hear today that not only could Rocket Richard handle the puck, a superstar like Wayne Gretzky, but that he could box like Rocky Marciano or Muhammad Ali. Is that true?
He had the quickest punch, as I say, in the league. He could throw them faster than anybody. This is why they all feared him. Nobody would really challenge him. I think I read it was before my time.
The only guy
he had the biggest. Was that Juzda?
Oh, Juzda. He knocked him out twice.
Yeah, there. Yeah. I mean, one puncher.
Yeah.
Out. That's how good he was.
The only guy that shook him is one night. I don't know whether you were playing. Leap and Lou was in New York, and they were playing. And there's only two of them on the blue line, and they get into a fight. And Leap and Lou hung a dandy on him. He was a tough baby, you know. And Rocket's legs shook. And he quit. Yeah. You know? And Rocket to this day, till the day he died, swore that their third guy sucker punched him from the side. I said, "Rock, there was three people in that area of the rink. There was Leap and Lou, you, and me, and I sure as hell wasn't going to hit you." So I said, "It was Leap and Lou." He says, No, I would have seen it."
Well, there's always headlines in New York, Red, if you remember. Leaping Lou's going to get the Rocket.
Yeah.
You know, that's all they had. And the fans from the top, everybody, every rink.
Rocket had to go in there.
They went to watch the Rocket. They went to.
So Rocket knew that not only did he have to go in and beat them on the ice, but in a fight too.
If necessary.
And he was good enough to do both.
Dickie, I guess on the same team you never had to fight him, but you probably fought beside him a few times. What was that like?
Well, yeah. You know, I remember in Chicago we had a little fight. I think it was Deb Gwidlin, and we're close to our bench. So I'm trying to get that Gwidlin. He's getting in close, and all of a sudden a hand comes over my shoulder, and bingo, he puts him out. That's Rocket who got him.
Reached over your shoulder.
I look good. They thought it was my punch.
Well, don't think this guy wasn't a little tough too. He scared me one night in Detroit because he jumped in the stands after about 30 servicemen in the corner who were on his back verbally. So he took offense to it, and he finally jumped the boards, and he's going at them. I thought somebody was going to die that night, and it might have been you.
Well, I always had Rocket behind me,
yeah.
You know, so I was okay.
Red, what do you think was the best goal you ever saw the Rocket score?
I have two in mind. You weren't with the team in 51, eh? 50-51?
No. The
semifinals were between Detroit and Canadians, and the first two games were in Detroit. And Bill Chadwick was referee in the first game. I was referee in the second game, and I had to each stand by for the other's game in case somebody got hurt. And the first game went 4 periods of overtime. The second game went 3 periods of overtime, and both games were finished the same identity. If you had to photograph the first one and put it on the picture for the second, it would Rocket come down right wing. He beat a Hall of Famer by the name of Red Kelly on defense and went in on Terry Sawchuk, another Hall of Famer, digged him out of his shoes, put the puck in the net, and the games are over. Both identical goals. I said, I don't, and it's no longer night. Now the guy is saying good morning on the microphone.
Yeah,
that's the truth.
This is why the people just flocked here for him today.
He was spectacular.
You know,
he knew how to get the big goals.
He knew how to get the big goals, and they just idolized him. You know, in my experience, his biggest goal was in 1953, Red.
Oh, I remember that one too. Go ahead. That's a dandy.
In 1953. I mean, you're talking about a guy who scores winning goals for cups, you know, just during the season. And he got injured with a 12-stitch cut or 15-stitch cut over his eye, went into the clinic, got sutured up, came back and skated over to the bench. The coach said, stay out there. Well, you know the outcome. Between him and Elmer, they broke in on Sugar Jim, who had another cut over his left eye.
He was bleeding.
He was bleeding on the other side, and Rocket beats him for the winning goal of Stanley Cup. That's that one I can't forget because it was my first Stanley Cup I won.
Red, to somebody who's not from here, how do you explain what the Rocket meant to Montrealers, to Quebecers, and to French Canadians?
He became the first and only legitimate icon and hero and everything. And 100 years from now, the kids will be reading their history books, and there'll be a section in there about Rocket and hockey and the National Hockey League. And I'm sure of it, because the guy, in my time and all the athletes I've seen in the world, nobody, and I mean nobody, comes close to topping the Rocket and Desire and the whole caboodle you wrap up in one. It's the Rocket all the way. And he's a hero because he belonged to the common man. We'd go around to the... It's okay to have a big crowd and a big noise in a big city, but we go around with the legends to these smaller areas, and he was just idolized, and he always took time. No matter how poor the guy was or how much of a hurry we were, he took time to stop and talk to the common man. He belonged to the people.
Dickie, do you think a player could achieve that today?
There's only one. It's him.
Yeah,
it's the Rock. It's only one. I mean, not only a hockey player, anybody. I think the Prime Minister wouldn't get this reception that he's getting today. You saw in the tent with me, Terry, with that little boy with his father. The kid was 7 years old. He had the number 9 on his sweater. He had the C on his chest. And he said he wants to be a Rocket Richard. That's a dream that every young boy goes through. It's someone that wants to follow a hero. And, you know, this fellow Rocket is the greatest hero Quebec has ever seen, or Canada.
Dickie, getting on that bus with 5 generations of Montreal Canadians to go to that funeral, what does it mean to you?
Well, it's something that we're sorry to do because we're losing a great friend. But I'm sure they're all happy to be part of it and wish him a farewell that will carry him up with his buddies, Doug Harvey, Jacques Plante, Claude Provost.
Heck of a team up there.
What a team, man. Oh, my, and the greatest coach.
I hope they don't need a referee early.
So what more could you, what more could you want? You know, it's wonderful. It's gratifying to see that, you know.
I guess we should end there. Dickie Moore and Red Storey, thanks for spending this time with us on a historic day.